It's good to see you, Asha. How are you?
You too. I'm doing well. Today where you're joining us, thank you for being our first IG Live of 2026, Core Sisters first live to talk about starting the year with intention. And it's so important, right?
Yes.
So we're going to jump into that in a little bit. But first, tell us a little bit about you, who you are, what your mission is for people that may have joined that don't know you or people that may
Absolutely.
listen in later.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm Caroline. I am a mom of three and married to an awesome man named Ben. I live in North Central Florida. I've pretty much lived in Florida most of my life, but lived in North Carolina and then China. Got the opportunity to meet you in China. And
Yes.
then when we came back to Florida, I said, I can't sit on the sidelines anymore. And so hopped back in, and I have a background in political science. So I graduated from the University of Florida here with a degree in political science, and I have a master's in international public policy. And I had the great opportunity to work in the legislature here in Florida and North Carolina. So my working background is in politics. And so when I came back, I said, what am I going to do? And so I wanted to get involved. And so a year after we moved here, I started a business. And so, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. Uh,
Yes.
but
I'm
yeah, we live
excited.
live out on our cute little farm in progress. We're gonna build our farm out here, and that's what we have going on.
Awesome. Thank you. So many layers to you, girl. As always, you're always you're doing a lot and super dynamic person. So grateful that you were yeah, one of our China core sisters that's moved back to the US. Um so let's see. We're talking a lot about starting the year and being very intentional. And when you think about like living with attention, especially at the beginning of the year, what does that really mean for you?
Yes. So when I think about living with intention, I always want to start with the end in mind.
Mm,
So a lot of in my job, I have the opportunity to look at things at a 30,000-foot level often, all the time. And so I have when I think about things, I always want to think about what I want the end goal to be. And that fortunately, it doesn't always work out that way. But I really take to heart the Bible verse that says to write things down.
mm, mm,
Habakkuk 2:2 is like my life verse. And so
mm.
in college, I wrote down what I wanted to do and did those things. And since I came back, I said, this is what I want to do. And those things have happened. And so when I think about what I want to do each year, I set my intention with what I hope the end of the year will be. And
Mhm.
not like I have to get there, but because I've set that intention, my goal for the year, my life usually does follow it and makes it happen. So that's what I think about when setting intention is the end.
Wow. That's really good. I like that. Looking at where you want to get. And there's another scripture that talks about writing the vision and making it plain.
Yes.
And I love that you start with the end in mind and that you also, put it down on paper to make it real in your life. That's so important. And you've worked across a lot of different and like now work across a lot of things, business, leadership, politics. And when you think about intention, how does that help you shape where you put your time and your energy?
So one of the things that's been really nice with coming back, I've had the opportunity to set my intention that I get to actually pick who I get to work with. I know
Wow.
that's not always the case with most people, but I knew I had a goal when I said, okay, if I'm gonna leave my kids and spend time away from my kids, one, I need to financially make a set amount of money. And then also, I'm not interested in selling my soul anymore. So very fortunately, my job as a consultant, while it started slow, I am slowly building. and then I get to choose who I work with, and that is an opportunity. And it also helps me be really intentional about how I spend my time and who I spend my time with.
Oh,
Um, and what I really appreciate is the flexibility that I can add on more clients or scale back if the family needs help, or if there's a season that's particularly busy, I can, especially in politics, it's pretty cyclical. So actually right now, well, the beginning of this year is a lot busier than the beginning of last year. But the early winter months, things kind of die down, but in the fall, things are really busy. And so I'm able to work in shifts, I think, as well. And that's how I can be intentional because I know sometimes will be a lot more demanding and sometimes not as much.
I love that. I love how you navigate, family and your career and your passions. I've always kind of, really admired how you really love your children and you love them and you're very present with them. And even just talking to you in the last couple of weeks and talking about like doing this live and knowing that you're like working on some things that your children are working on or working with them in their current situation. I'm always just really impressed how you stay present and you still show up for the people that need you, professionally as well. And I just think that that's a true testament to who you are. So, yeah, we met in China, and China is its own wonder. As you know, no one knows it unless you've been there. So we can talk about that because we know. But tell me how, like, did living in China and working with, like, knowing and learning about the culture, working with the people. I know you didn't like you didn't really work in obviously in politics there,
No, let's make
but
that very clear for the internet. I did not work in politics.
no, yes, you did not. But how did your experience there inform how you look at leadership, power, and representation?
Well, I would say when it comes to representation, China was the most growing experience for me. Going in, I didn't think that I had um I didn't think that I had these blind spots that I did, and then to go to a different country and to have to be like not have to choose to be amongst a completely different people group and
Yeah.
then to be considered an outsider was just a small glimpse, and it really helped me see that each person in the world has the image of God in them, and
Mm,
like really take that to heart. Um, and then to be able to bring that back with that special, like that special gift that everybody, like God loves every single person. And so it's hard to summarize, right? Such a really intense time and
right.
experience there. Um, but I would say that there were many depths and many layers that helped me see one, the importance of leadership, strong leadership, right? Coming in with a background in international relations and then seeing how things are run, it's completely different than what we were taught in the US.
Yeah.
Things run really well. Things are people have more freedoms than what's talked about, but also you can see like the good and the bad in both things and be able to hold things loosely, for both and really be able to see things. I think having a much different perspective when you come outside of the US and then being able to come back and see that um, yes, absolutely. Love our country, but see how our country is viewed from the international perspective.
Yes.
So
That's
bringing that back to a leadership perspective and even coming back to Florida, you can kind of see like, while some things seem really big, when you scale back and you realize, oh, no, they're not as big. And I would say that was probably one of the most helpful things in coming back and working in politics was knowing that we had gone through some really challenging things overseas, and that really, when you come, the things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis in the U.S. are just not as severe. Well, until recently, um, this year's gotten exciting, but it helped give me a lot of
I love
perspective.
that.
It gave me a
So
lot
yeah,
of
so
perspective.
politically correct too.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, exciting is a good word.
But I would say the biggest thing, we went through a lot and you were there with us and we got to experience actually the healthcare system
Right.
in China.
Mm.
That changed my perspective on what I think the role of government is in people's lives. And so when I came back, I was able to advocate for two things. Well, one for sure, limited government, but then also how the government actually helps play a role in people's lives. And I think that I can advocate for that with a much more clear and also personal experience. So yeah, those are the things that I would take back. Oh, and very thick skin. Yeah, I think that
Okay.
I don't think I would have been able to hop back into politics and be as successful without what we went through in China. Yeah.
Right. Didn't have resilience before. It literally like instills it in you, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Well,
Yes.
I love all that. You said so many good things. I love like seeing God in people. You find the good in people. You see the good in people from a different perspective, and you actually, recognize that we have a lot more in common than we differences. And so, and it is a really good comparison, even to see just kind of women in the workplace there as well. So, man, so many great insights. Thanks for sharing. For those of you that join, we're talking to Caroline Anderson about being intentional coming into the year and about her work across several different places in roles in her life. So when it comes to like working with women in politics, I know you're working with women and just in women in general. A lot of women feel like they're called, to lead, but sometimes it's hard to make those steps to get there. And I know I've even been there sometimes. I'm like a natural leader, but sometimes you just don't know how to move forward. And
Yeah.
so when working with them, what steps do you work with them on to go from actual feeling the calling to actually moving into the actual leadership?
This is a great question. And actually, I feel very lucky that I get to do this with women and walk beside them on their journey in politics. But actually, this past year, I helped two other women, one start their business, and also a woman that was well established in her career and just helped her launch her website. And so, with each of those different things, it's exactly what you said. Women have the desire, but they don't necessarily know the next steps.
Right.
I think that's where someone like me can come in and help show you what these next steps are. But
Mm,
I think even circling back is knowing that women need to be asked like 7 times before they are willing to run for office
wow.
or any other type of leadership position.
Mm,
So one thing I think we can do is just encourage other women that say, I want to see you in leadership. You can lead. I
I
think that just having that confidence and hearing someone else say like, yeah, you need to be in leadership because we need your story and
ooh,
yeah, well,
girl.
we do,
Yeah.
and that is true, and it's really why I wanted when I came back to the US, I said I want to get more women in politics because if we want to see things change, I think we need to see different people there, and
Right.
that does require their stories, and that's another thing I took away from China is everybody has a different story to tell, and we need to bring those stories into the leadership role. So I would say some practical steps. One, encourage your other women that you see want to take on leadership and say, you can do it. I also would say that a lot of people do, most people I think do things scared and don't wait until you're not scared. I do things scared all the time. Like I talk to my sisters and they're like, you seem so confident. I'm like, man, I am not. I do I do
Making it
things
look easy.
Oh, I do things scared every day. But I think just stepping out and taking that next step. And then as it relates to politics, there are a lot of really good resources. It's just people don't know how to find them. So I'm happy to help connect people with those resources. And I think just, talking to people and seeing who's around you that can help support you because ultimately I think it's women supporting women is going to make the change.
That part. Oh my goodness, girl. I feel like snapping. Those are so good things. Like, girl, you got this. Go. Like, when you look, if you have a girlfriend in the room with you or that you see today or tomorrow, tell them you need to do this. I love that. Like just cheering them on. People need that just boost of confidence.
Yeah.
So, oh my goodness, those are such great nuggets, and I'm definitely going to try to recap those when we post the clip, because I think that a lot of women need to hear that, and they need to know that sometimes we're our own worst critics, and we have what it takes, and the resources are very closer than we realize, is what you're saying. So
Yes.
I love that you're doing this work and that you're cheering women on. You're leading by example. And someone said, so lucky we have Caroline to cheer us on. And I'm like, amen to that, girl. So we're talking about word of the year and choosing your word. And you've done this for a few years now with Core Sisters. I think we did some vision boards together when we were in China together. So how do you go about choosing your word of the year, first of all, is the first part of this question. Secondly, do you have a word of the year? And what do you hope for it to help you embody this year?
So I have to say, the last time I chose the word of the year was 2020.
Oh,
And
wow.
yes, being intentional. And
He said,
um,
so I saw one of our courses in China just joined.
And and that word of the year ended up being quite prophetic, very similar to how it feels like the word of the year I felt for this year. For me, I like to just meditate a little bit, think
Yeah.
intentionally about it, and think honestly about the first word that comes to me.
Yeah.
That hasn't failed yet.
Yeah.
So last time, sorry, my light got a little darker.
That's okay.
Um,
Your light did not dim inside, it just dimmed outside.
But anyway, so in 2020, sorry, long story getting there. I felt like, and this was before COVID. It was January 2020. I felt like my year was going to be peace. My word for the year was peace, and peace in uncertainty specifically. And then 2020 was wild. Like we were in Germany visiting my sister for 2 weeks, and it ended up being 2 months. And then we were in North Carolina for 3 months, and then Florida, and then we had Emerson, and then all that wild stuff happened. But through it all, I did actually have a lot of peace because I clung to, like, this was a word that I did feel like I was given from the Lord. And so when you had asked about a word of the year, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. So I really felt like this year, I felt like my word of the year is courageous. And
Oh,
and
wow.
then the Bible verse that goes along with it, to be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God goes with you wherever you
Mm,
go.
mm, mm.
And I was like, yeah, that's going to be my word of the year because, like I said, I don't always feel very confident, but obviously I have this now very big, like, high powered role helping women run for office. And there's from all levels, from local level to I'm helping with a governor's race this year. So it's some big things, which just is wild to me, but I feel like it's not my courage, right? It comes from the Lord. And so
Right.
I right now feel like I'm just holding on, and I think I'm gonna feel like that the whole year, but I'm excited because I know it's gonna be a big year. So that's
I'm
my
with
that's
you.
my word, and that's how I got there.
Yay! I love that. And peace was my 2020 word God gave me too, when the US, not knowing what we were gonna both encounter in China in 2020. So he knows what we need. So I'm excited
Yeah.
to see how he unfolds courageous for you this year, and see courage is the C in core. So yeah, we try to embody that every day. So I hope so. You're getting people are saying, "Amen." That's prophetic. You're getting fire emojis. So it's resonating with the girls. So you're working with women in politics and in kind of a space that always seems to be really like there's a lot of gatekeepers in this space. How do you help women lead with confidence but still stay aligned to their values and integrity?
So I love this question a lot, and I've had to come up against a lot of gatekeepers, as you would imagine. This has come up so much that I am thinking about writing a little book about being a tent and a table maker because in the political space, so many people want to keep the door shut. You know, you hear that
Wow.
term closed door meetings, but I have had a vision for a larger tent and also a table. One of the candidates I'm working with, her vision is to bring people to the table. And so my vision is also to build a bigger table, you know, like there's a room for everybody. But how do we talk about leading with confidence and staying aligned in your values? It is challenging. I can tell you that when you come up against gatekeepers, people certainly don't like it. When you challenge their institutions, they certainly don't like that. But I'm reminded that in whether it's business or politics, no institution has ever given up power on their own.
Mm,
Um, and so oftentimes you're going to be met with resistance when it comes to gatekeepers. And so what I have done, and I can speak from experience this past year, what I've done is speak truth to power. And I have a backbone now from living in China and things being speak boldly and understand that people aren't going to like it, but then it's time to just like take a step back, and it never fails. In a few months, or sometimes it takes longer than that, people come back around and they're like, you were right. So I would say that it's important to keep your values, and that, you know, if your values to be kind and to be a peacemaker, you know, um, raising your voice and demanding change, but you're going to be met with resistance. But there's ways that you can promote change while being a person of integrity. And I think the biggest thing is to continue on doing your work and what you know is right, regardless of if people tell you no. I think that the easiest thing for people to say is no, but there's always a way. I think that was also the other thing we learned in China. Like people, it's the easiest thing for people to do is say no. But what makes people different that get stuff done is to let no be the first stop on their journey, basically. Like, okay, this is a no. How are we gonna get this done? You know, and I am grateful, and I do think, you know, it seems cliche to say you stand on people's shoulders, but I know I stand on the shoulders of women who didn't take no for an answer, being able to get us our rights to vote, and continued on until all women had the rights to vote. So I take it very seriously. I'm thankful that obviously I wouldn't have said I was thankful for all the hard things that we went through, but all the hard things we went through made it a lot easier to talk about politics, and people tell me no here. So I'm like, well, at least XYZ is not happening. So yeah, stay aligned in your values, but be calm, courageous, don't be passive, and speak your truth as well, even though it's unlikely to go over well the first time
wow.
around.
I don't even know. Like, there's so much there to what you said from the start to the finish of that question. But one of the things, like, a few things that resonate. One, you might not get invited to the table, but you can literally build your own. And I love this tent and table maker concept. I've never actually even heard it, but what I have to say to you when you're talking about writing a book is do it. What you said earlier in our conversation, we have to cheer women on. It's like, don't just talk about it, girl. I want to see you be about it, because I think that you do have the passion and the really authentic heart to really encourage women in that space. And, you know, speaking their truth and letting no be the first stop. Keep pushing, keep being persistent, keep doing what your word is, you know, says, and be courageous. I love it all. So thank you so much for sharing that. So my last question, I told you this time flies by. You know, every time I get on with my friends, I'm like, we need to make 30 minutes. But um, I want to ask you this. So you're saying all of this and you're just rolling off your tongue. And I know firsthand as a core friend and a core sister that this has come from trial and living and all of that. So what about those women that have these big goals, these big ambitions? It's the beginning of the year. They may have chosen their word. They want to embody it. They've chosen what they've thought they want this year to hold, whether spiritually, professionally, emotionally, but they feel a bit overwhelmed. What is maybe one intentional step you can help them to just start this year?
I think it seems silly, but one of the things that helped me a lot was just walking.
Mm,
Like literally start walking. Um, and so when I felt overwhelmed and didn't know what to do, I walked a lot. And I said I wanted to shout out to Tiffany because I called her a lot and in the mornings last year. And in the mornings, I'd walk along the road and I would talk to her. So I think that it seems silly, but just taking that time, basically, is having time for yourself, right?
mm,
Having time where you can think about um, things when you're feeling overwhelmed to literally like take a tangible step of something that you can do to
I love
calm
that.
down, basically to calm your nervous system. And walking is one of those things. And one of the things that someone told me, they're like, well, when you go into a really intense career, you also need to have really intense rest, or
Mm,
else you will burn out.
wow.
So one of the things I do is I literally do like grounding. I live out in a field basically, so I take my shoes off and walk around barefoot.
Girl,
And
you're
many
great.
times
And Florida, girl, you might not have no toes. Like,
I know
I feel like my mom, I hear my mom going, put your shoes on, girl. But no.
well, and I also didn't know why people put their shoes on, and I do know now, and
Mm,
we do wear boots, but yeah, I think walking, but also being able to talk to a friend, things feel much less overwhelming when you can share it, when you can talk to someone else
yeah.
about
Like Kelsey says, she does the same thing barefoot. Grooming. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. That's really good. I love that. You know what I mean? And you know, that was actually surprising. I wouldn't have expected that. But walking is just it's a really good thing to just actually connect with nature too. If you're in a place,
it.
you're where there's any kind of nature, it's always nice whether you're, praying, meditating, trying to hear from God, any of that kind of stuff, or just trying to kind of think through what's next. So thank you for that. So
Yeah.
as we wrap up, is there anything else that you have on your heart or that you feel that you want to leave with our sisters and friends that have joined us?
Yes, there is. Thank you for asking. Yeah, there's one last question that you asked in the message, and I really want to share with people because I think this is important. And it was,
Okay.
how do you balance ambition, leadership, and personal life?
Mm,
And one thing I did really want to share was that you can't basically,
mm,
but it's not just leaving it at there. And that's what I wanted to say is a long time ago, I think probably before my daughter was born, so my daughter's 10 now. I think I was pregnant with her when I watched this. I watched this series called The Makers, and that's what I wanted to share with everyone. I would highly recommend this series. It's called The Makers series, Women Who Make America. So it had all these high-powered women, women in politics, women in business, and they shared all about their lives, how they got there. But the
mm.
most impactful was this woman that came on, and she said, "You can have it all, just not all at the same time."
Yes.
And so that has really what's led me. Like when we were in China, I felt like that was my time to be home with the babies. It was a struggle for me to be home and not working.
Right.
That was hard, but I also said I knew I wanted to be home with them before they were 5. And so I was able to have that time with them. And then now, Ben, my husband, has really stepped up so that I can work. And so
Mhm.
this is like my period of time where I can really lean into my job. And so I know people have probably heard that before, but that was just something I wanted to leave with everyone is the idea that we can have it all, just not right all at the same time.
And
And
it's okay,
learning
right?
exactly. And then learning to prioritize like what kind of like balls, you're juggling all these different balls, but prioritizing which ones you're gonna let fall by the wayside and which ones are important. And that changes over the course of your life.
That is game, girl. That is game. You showed us what's in the cards. So thank you for that. I love that. So thank you so much for joining us and just
Thank you
sharing
for
your
having
heart,
me.
wisdom, girl. I love this. I love everything about it. I wish I could just soak you up for a little more. I can't wait for some people to watch it back. Tell us where we can find you, what you're doing right now. What's the best way to connect with you?
Okay, so personally, yes, you can connect with me on Instagram. That's great. My website is still in development, so if you go to my website, you won't see much. You can find me on LinkedIn too. That's probably
Okay.
has the most up-to-date information about what's going on. So, Caroline Anderson, and then my business is called the Osmanthus Group, and
Yeah.
yeah, so that's how you can find me.
Never been to China. It's one of the most fragrant flowers. We used to smell it all the time when we were in Suzhou.
Yes, well, that's why I named it because it also blooms in the fall. Like elections are in the fall, and it
Ooh, I
was
love this.
yes, and it was in my backyard when we moved back here to Florida, and I said, "What is this?"
Wow.
And that's how I just felt like it was a sign from God that He just because it was my favorite scent in China, and I had never smelled it here before.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yes, and Rebecca said one of her favorite scents too, and she's lived in Shanghai and now she lives in Beijing. So she knows.
Oh,
Yes.
yes. So I was working on my branding and I'll actually I'm at my desk. And so I got my
Oh,
client's little osmanthus lotion and stuff.
yeah. Oh, Ellen. Hey, girl. Ellen's on here too, and she said osmanthus is amazing. Another one of our friends from China. So love it. I love all the support, and I can't wait to, talk more and hear kind of how courageous has happened. We might touch base with you again at the end of the year to hear how it rolled out. So thanks
Yes.
so much, Caroline.
All
Thanks
right.
everyone that joined, and everybody have a good evening or day, depending on where you are in the world. Take care.
Bye. Thanks, Ashley.
Bye.